Here lies the remains of Marvel's Avengers, a live service experience that should have never existed. Thinking about some of the greatest superheroes ever making it into a boring looter shooter, Square Enix made all of the wrong decisions, and here we are at the logical destination, and soon enough we could be having some other games that will join in that graveyard. Yes, I am speaking to Saints Row and Forspoken, which will not be joining quite yet, as both have single-player story DLC on the way. Why? Well, contractual obligations is the answer. Both Volition and Luminous Productions, the developers behind those games, pretty much have ceased to exist, being absorbed into other bigger companies, and yeah, they probably have a skeleton crew working on this content, but for the 20 people that are excited for it, it's coming soon enough. As EA grapples with a new age for their FIFA-less football game and that UFC-looking logo, hundreds of employees are out of a job. CEO Android Wilson said this is the most difficult part, just weeks after announcing massive profits of $7 billion last year. So just an average unfortunate day in this industry. Meanwhile, one major feature that fans were disappointed to not see in Hogwarts Legacy was Quidditch matches. And for those holding out hope for future DLC to include the feature, it looks like that won't be happening based on the recent announcement of Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, a multiplayer team competitive game being developed by Unbroken Studios. It's unclear how far into development it is, but this is Warner Brothers' answer to those wanting to play some Quidditch. And as for Hogwarts Legacy, it was actually recently revealed by Warner Brothers that the game sold 256% over their target for the game. So all of the outrage, all of the boycott, it just equaled up to an even bigger launch and probably a bright future, which hopefully will include some Quidditch. But before we dive further into the gaming news, today's video is brought to you by Bespoke Post, a monthly membership club delivering a box of awesome top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. It's free to join and you can skip a month or cancel any time. Each month, Bespoke Post provides members cool new products from outdoor gear to kitchen gadgets to much more, based on a preference quiz members fill out. And 90% of the products come from small brands, many of which are based right here in the United States, such as the Trail Box, which comes with a gut hook knife made by Titan International based in Illinois. Every box of awesome has around $70 worth of goods inside, but costs you only a fraction of the value. And even before a box is shipped, you can preview what comes inside, and you have the option to keep it, swap it with a different box, or skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. I've already picked up this sliced box, which comes with this stylish compact cutting board and knife and a strap to ensure it stays nice and tight. Used it actually earlier today on some watermelon. A personal favorite of mine, and as someone who's out and about often, just a great on-the-go tool. I also got this Dwell box, which comes with these very strong incense cones, which I lit up before I laid down with this comfortable alcove blanket. Like so many others already have, join the Bespoke Post Club today and get 20% off your first box of awesome just by clicking the link in the description and enter LegacyKilla20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/LegacyKilla20. Thank you again to Bespoke Post for sponsoring today's video. One of the major releases of 2023 was supposed to be Rocksteady's Suicide Squad. This was a highly anticipated game. This is their first game in 8 years. There was a lot of excitement before we saw some actual gameplay of it, in which it looks like another live service looter shooter. A lot of it doesn't make any sense and has faced a lot of scrutiny. Now the game has been delayed to February of 2024. Earlier reports indicated it may have been pushed back to like fall of 2023. It actually got a longer delay. That's why a lot of people are encouraged by that, hoping that this is an indication that the core gameplay experience is going to be changing, but that's not actually what's happening, according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who says that, well, the live service elements are here to stay. So why the game is getting 8 more months of development, it's unclear. I guess they're going to polish it on up, but this just feels like a ticking time bomb, and it really does feel like it's going to blow up in Rocksteady's face. And hey, we've already seen the founders of the studio leave at the end of 2022. It just feels like the inevitable outcome is going to be that this is going to get mixed reviews, but hey, I'd love to be wrong. It's just that this looks like the next Marvel's Avengers. But I guess we'll wait to see that in 2024. Ubisoft already has a reputation for creating soulless, lifeless, heartless, and generic open-world experiences, and that is a trend that will only continue into the future, and it is a major problem. They have now announced AI ghostwriting, a new tool to save scriptwriters' time. It just seems like Ubisoft is only interested in pumping out as many games as possible and not actually concentrating on innovation and creativity. This AI tool is telling. It shows shows that Ubisoft doesn't see the importance of open world design, the importance of atmosphere, of NPC dialogue in a game. They've basically thrown in the towel, in my opinion. The games industry has reacted with horror to this development. A lot of game developers and writers have said that this is just Ubisoft's excuse to not hire actual writers and, concentrate on actual quality. And the announcement has close to 5,000 dislikes versus 1,000 likes. And the assumption that a lot of people have is that these open world Ubisoft experiences aren't going to be getting any better. It's just going to be continuing to get more boring and generic, which is something I honestly kind of expected. But hey, the AI technology will certainly ensure that. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are the latest monetization scheme that just will not go away. Square Enix has been on the forefront of this video game industry, jumping balls deep into the tech, and they actually recently, about a month ago, revealed Symbiogenesis, their first NFT game, and on YouTube you can see the reaction just based on disabled by owner for the dislike button, and the comment section is full of people, clowning Square Enix. And honestly, if Square Enix thinks NFTs are going to be their saving grace, I really do think that maybe they should look in a different direction and just hope that Sony will end up buying them out. That has been the rumor for years, and I feel like that would probably be the best next step for this company. Throughout 2023 thus far, I've been extremely critical of Sony because they've made a lot of, let's just say, dumb decisions, and their responses to the Activision Blizzard Xbox merger has been nonsensical and at times hypocritical, and right now it looks like that deal is close to being complete based on some of the rulings that are happening with some of the regulators in the UK and the EU, and likely the FTC will follow suit. That looks like a done deal. It looks like we'll probably hear an approval in the coming months. But as it stands with Xbox, and more importantly Phil Spencer's leadership team, there are a lot of concerns and question marks right now. Jeff Grubb on a recent podcast said that Microsoft is not happy with the state of Xbox, saying specifically, "I can tell you they are not, they're upset. We're just trying to diagnose it a little bit, right? They didn't release a first party game last year, and if that doesn't affect you, if you always have something to play again, that's awesome, but a lot of people do regret getting their Xbox." This just goes back to the point of Game Pass, and they really want to bolster it up. That's why they spent all this money on all these studios, and we have yet to see really any big results. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, but how that turns out, a lot of concerns, a lot of question marks. Specifically with Halo, this is their staple franchise, and over the last coming months, we've just seen a lot of major departures, and yes, while it is, I guess you could say, we got some fresh blood in the building, you're seeing all these veterans just jumping ship amidst a rocky launch with Halo Infinite. You have the Halo veteran Joseph Staten. He has left Microsoft. I believe he just recently joined Netflix. He was with the company for about 18 years, played a major role with finishing and getting Halo Infinite out the door, and we also saw the Halo franchise director Frank O'Connor has left Microsoft. He'd worked on the franchise since 2004. And Halo Infinite itself, even though it has had some good updates as of late, it's just struggling to really capture interest as the player base is just down to a couple of thousand players on Steam. And then you have Hi-Fi Rush. This came out earlier this year. This is another thing that Jeff Grubb talked about. He said that this game did not make the money it needed to make. But interestingly enough, Aaron Greenberg, who is like a marketing guy at Xbox, came out and said that no, Hi-Fi Rush was actually a major success for them. So you can believe whatever you want to believe with these individuals. It just, from an outside perspective, it doesn't seem like Xbox quite has a good grasp on their studios. And I really do question how Phil Spencer is manning over all of these studios, because they have like 30 or so developers under them, and they're going to have even more once this Activision Blizzard deal is complete. And even with Xbox's next big exclusive, which is going to be Redfall in a couple of weeks, there was big news about it only having 30 FPS at launch, and you look to Sony and their offerings with all of their big exclusive having all these different options, performance modes, and Xbox really needs to get this stuff right. They need to start leading by example, and yes, I do think it matters, especially with a shooter not having a 60 FPS mode available nowadays. This isn't 2012, this is 2023. Next gen hardware is here, and I really do think 60 FPS should be the standard for a lot of these games, or at least having options. And obviously they're saying that 60 FPS may be coming later, but I just don't think that's good enough. And if you look further ahead, Starfield, which was originally supposed to release in the first half of 2023, recently delayed to the second half. There's already been concerns about this game just based on some of the footage that we have seen. That getting a 60 FPS mode would be a miracle at this point. Honestly, it would be a miracle if this game runs at a stable 30 FPS and isn't buggy or broken at launch. It's kind of just been the Bethesda MO for the last decade or two. Something that I do think is a problem, and they do deserve a lot more criticism than they've ever received. They obviously got that with Fallout Fallout 76, but with these big mainline entries, we'll see if they've learned their lesson with Starfield. Based on the footage that we have seen, I have concerns, but I just think that Xbox really should be getting more out of their studios. That was my hope when they purchased Bethesda, and that's going to be my hope with Activision Blizzard. But hey, Activision Blizzard right now has their own issues. They're bleeding just so much talent. We had this recent news. Former Diablo devs launched Gas Giant Games. I feel it's like every couple weeks there's more Blizzard veterans forming their own studios. I think Mike Morhaime, who was the former head of Blizzard for the longest time, formed his own studio last year or the year before. And there's just a number of other examples I can bring up, but that's probably good for the health of this industry, but it just shows the problems that are happening within Blizzard that continue to happen. And we actually saw ex-Blizzard leaders Jen O'Neill and J. Allen Brack create their own startup studio Magic Soup Games, and they both talked about their time at Blizzard, and more interestingly, J. Allen Brack talked about his departure from Activision Blizzard. If you don't remember, the former president of that company was pretty much thrown to the wolves. He was the fall guy when all of the misconduct allegations emerged. Brack told VentureBeat in a recent interview, "Separation was incredibly difficult, but I believe the organization would heal faster under someone new. I've been reflecting a great deal on my role in driving cultural change. I've been listening to and reading many personal accounts and opinions about the things that should have been better. I still believe Blizzard can reemerge as a haven for creatives with a positive culture for all employees." On that note, the chaos at Blizzard just continues. We had this recent IGN report. Blizzard producer claims the studio is creating crisis maps as more employees depart. After a series of departures from the World of Warcraft studio, the producer said the team is making crisis maps of what they can and cannot ship due to so many employees leaving. "Being loud about it because I've lost yet another person this week. Blizzard is losing amazing talent because someone in power doesn't listen to the game directors who make his products." This is just what Microsoft is going to have to deal with, and I have concern, and I just don't know if Phil Spencer's team is up for the task of repairing this really fractured and messed up company. And then we also have this other update. Activision Blizzard is being sued again by the US government. The company is being sued by the US Department of Justice over allegations that it established a competitive balance tax. This is over their esports division. It was created to avoid wealthier esports clubs from overpaying for the top talent and Call of Duty and Overwatch esports tourneys. If a franchised club violated the tax by paying its players more than the Activision Blizzard imposed cap, the team would be penalized and the fine money would be split among the other non-infringing teams. However, the DOJ's lawsuit claims that the tax was implemented to artificially lower player salaries as a whole, so Activision Blizzard being cheap. In response to the charges, an Activision Blizzard spokesperson just basically said, "No, we're innocent, we're gonna fight our case in court, and we'll see what happens with this situation." But again, this is the mess that Microsoft has to clean up once this deal is complete, and we'll see what happens with that. But lawsuits in this industry is nothing new. We saw a recent one in which a Nintendo Switch hacker, Gary Bowser, his punishment was absolutely insane. According to this report coming from VGC, Gary Bowser was a part of a hacking group who was convicted for creating and selling circumvention devices enabling users to play illegal backups on Switch and 3DS, and he was just recently released from prison early. It's kind of insane, just the fact that you can go to jail for stuff like that, but Nintendo, one of those very litigious companies in this industry. Bowser was sentenced in February 2022 to 40 months in prison for what I just mentioned before, and he revealed in a new interview that he has to fulfill other parts of his sentence, which is that he's being ordered to pay $14.5 million in damages, of which a $10 million payment to Nintendo is considered the priority. And basically, this guy is going to have to pay 25 to 30% of his income for the rest of his life to pay this off. It's just really disgusting how a lot of these companies treat their modding community, those who are just trying to make sure that games that came out years ago are available for everybody, but that's just the nature of this industry. And Take-Two Interactive is another great example of this. The parent company of Rockstar Games, they just recently dismissed a lawsuit against GTA modders. And when I say dismiss, just understand that doesn't mean that they just let these modders walk off. The word is right now, the rumor is that there may have been a settlement that was reached that is confidential and we don't know any specifics about it. But Take-Two Interactive, if you didn't know, they dismissed a lawsuit that was filed in 2021 against GTA modders over the reverse engineered ports of GTA 3 and GTA Vice City. Things that were fine for a while until, you know, Rockstar Games and Take-Two Interactive wanted to make those horrible GTA remasters. If you don't remember the GTA Definitive Edition, that was horrific. And obviously Take-Two Interactive, if you don't remember, they went after a ton of mod projects. and ultimately they did end up suing some of the modders that had made some of these projects possible. But the suit was recently dismissed with prejudice, which means it cannot be refiled, but it was only dismissed against 4 named defendants. The lawsuit also named 10 John Does as defendants, and the filing noted specifically that the remaining defendants are not dismissed by the stipulation, but in an update filed the next day, Take-Two also dismissed the case against those defendants, but without prejudice, meaning that it can refile the action against them. This is just the way that Take-Two Interactive treats their modding community. That's why I do have concern with Grand Theft Auto 6 and how they'll go about that. But that's why I also found it very interesting with the recent Vice City news. As some of you, and well, a lot of you may have noticed, 50 Cent was talking about a Vice City project. This is something that was blowing up on social media. He posted the GTA Vice City logo on his social media saying, "I will explain this later, GLG, this crap is bigger than power, trust me," and a lot of people thought that this may be an indication that he's a part of GTA 6. He also ended up posting another one, in which again it was the Vice City logo. A lot of people like, maybe is he involved in GTA 6's soundtrack or such? But no, it actually was not that. It was this. It was a Paramount Plus developing new original series Vice City from 50 Cent. This is something he announced on his social media, and he called the project an original idea, but the way that this is described, it sounds awfully a lot like a video game called GTA Vice City. Vice City, which is its working title, will probably be changed. We'll get to that in a second. It follows 3 friends and former soldiers who return to their home city of Miami in the mid-80s after being dishonorably discharged from the military for their involvement in the Iran-Contra scandal. Disgraced, displaced, and forgotten by the country they served, with no good job prospects, the 3 friends partner with a mysterious Colombian immigrant, uniting their financial needs and criminal ambition to form a heist crew. Fueled by the need for American green, they traverse a violent and dangerous path in pursuit of the American dream. And almost immediately once this announcement was made, the Vice City posts that were on 50 Cent's social media were taken down. And the belief is that Take-Two Interactive likely filed a cease and desist, and there's probably a 99% chance that this is not going to be called Vice City. It's the working title for the show, but there's no way that this ends up being a thing, just because, well, Take-Two Interactive, a very litigious company. And I personally believe it's almost certain that they would go after the producers and the show and make a huge lawsuit out of this, because yes, Vice City is a name, they do not own the copyright for it, but this show seems very influenced by it. Obviously, we've seen other media in recent memory that are influenced by GTA Vice City. Crime Boss Rockay City, infamously, when it was announced, I believe at the Game Awards last year, had a trailer which was, well, it had all of that Vice City vibes to it, but again, they didn't actually name it that, and they also didn't post the GTA Vice City logo to give buzz for the show on their social media. But we'll have to see what happens specifically with that situation. There hasn't been any further updates on that, but with GTA 6, a lot of people still waiting for updates. We've seen some influencers posting stuff on social media, being excited about it. Some people think that that's an indication that the press is actually already playing the game. It's just not happening. Right now, we will probably see an announcement later this year. We had this report recently from Insider Gaming saying Tez2, a reputable Rockstar insider, has suggested that GTA 6 is likely to be announced this year with a tentative release date of 2024, and Tom Henderson saying that his sources have said that GTA 6 has been aiming for a 2024 release date for some time. But speculation based on past reveals and release schedules, like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, suggests that the game will probably be delayed into 2025. Again, Rockstar infamous for their delays. And Tom Henderson furthermore says, according to my own sources, one of the major reasons for such a long-winded delay is that GTA 6 will release on current-gen consoles only. And that makes sense. Rockstar really wants to have this game be innovative, something that you have to rush out and want to play. That is what I got out of Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that I think surpasses much of this industry in a number of ways, and GTA 6 doing the same just doesn't surprise me. That is who Rockstar is. That's why I think they are one of the best developers in this industry. But moving along to our last story of the day, we have Naughty Dog. They've been very busy as of late, as some of you might remember. They released The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, and it was a flawless release, reviewed positively. Everybody, no, that's not exactly what happened. The game is, honestly, it's baffling that Naughty Dog let this happen. There still seems to be confusion who specifically was behind this. Naughty Dog in interviews indicated that it was in-house, it was their part, and the fact that this game has a 58 on Metacritic, one of their worst reviews ever, and the user review score is at like a 2 out of 10. And then there's all kinds of memes and stuff. It really is disgusting how Naughty Dog went about this, the fact that they let this release. They've obviously apologized, promised for updates, and I believe they have released a couple already, but ultimately they chose to release it how it was like this. This is what I say about all of these launch disasters with these AAA releases. These companies, they know what they are putting out. They have QA testers. They just chose to release it unfinished and crappy. For a company like Naughty Dog, this is just an unacceptable port. But Naughty Dog has also been busy with some other stuff, as some of you may know. The talk of social media for a while was their HBO series, an adaptation of The Last of Us. To the surprise of no one, it was met to universal acclaim from critics and users alike. My personal opinion on the show is that I thought it was very good. It probably is the best live-action video game adaptation ever. That really isn't saying that much because all of the other adaptations that exist have been very not great. Mortal Kombat is probably the rare example of something that's actually been pretty decent as well. Halo, bad. Assassin's Creed movie, that was bad. The Resident Evil series last year from Netflix, that was horrible. But even with those series, they weren't really a direct adaptation of the actual source material. That's what is very striking about this, and the fact that Naughty Dog was very hands-on with this project. But I did have problems with The Last of Us the first season. I thought that there were some real pacing issues. They really could have added some more depth to the relationship of Ellie and Joel with another episode or two, and maybe not rushing the ending. I thought that last episode really rushed it, but hey, I really did enjoy some of these smaller episodes, especially the Bill and Frank episode. Didn't really care for the Kansas City chapter. I don't think it worked as well, but overall I think the show it's the next juggernaut. I mean, it already outviewed or has more viewership than HBO's The House of the Dragon, which is just crazy in my opinion. And it certainly is going to be very curious how they handle The Last of Us Part 2. But we may be getting a little bit more clarity on that and how they are actually going to be deviating from that game. See, the thing is, in Hollywood, there was a series called Westworld a couple of years ago. That show really was on the top of the world with Anthony Hopkins, kind of the key player in the series. And once he left, it just never recovered. And The Last of Us Part 2 does a very big thing right in the beginning, about an hour or so into that game, in which Joel is no longer there. And if Pedro Pascal is no longer playing that character, it's going to be very interesting if Bella Ramsey can hold it together. But I do think that they're going to be keeping him on for a while. And why do I say that? Because of comments coming from Craig Mazin, who is the showrunner. He previously said that Part 2 of that game is more than a season's worth of television for sure, and it has already been confirmed that there's going to be a Last of Us HBO series season 3, so this game is going to be split into 2 seasons. And Mazin furthermore told, I believe it was IGN or one of these websites, season 2 will be different just as this season was different. Sometimes it will be different radically, and sometimes it won't be fairly different at all. But it's going to be different. It will be its own thing. It won't be exactly like the game. It will be the show that Neil and I want to make, but we are making it with Bella. So my leading suspicion is that all of the events that play out in The Last of Us Part 2 are still going to happen, just in a different form. So I imagine the entirety of Season 2 is going to lead up to Joel's fate, and then Season 3 will have the Abby versus Ellie arc in Seattle, and then by the time they get to a Season 4, Season 5, probably The Last of Us Part 3 will be out. And actually, to that question, Neil Druckmann addressed this recently, saying that I know fans really want The Last of Us Part 3. I hear about it all the time. We are already into our next project. The decision has already been made, but I can't say what it is. We picked what we are most excited for, and I think it's going to be The Last of Us Part 3. Doesn't make any sense to not make this game, especially if this releases in just a couple of years after the multiplayer project. It'll coincide with the HBO series, and they'll be able to adapt it immediately. But to those who actually are questioning if they're going to deviate extremely away from the events of The Last of Us Part 2, Neil Druckmann kind of already confirmed no. He said that to The Last of Us Part 2 backlash, I don't care. So again, I think they're going to keep to it, and an original vision actually for The Last of Us Part 2 was going to be that Abby infiltrates Jackson, and it builds up that relationship, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do this time. That's going to be the big deviation, is that they're going to build up the relationship of Abby, Ellie, and Joel, and then eventually, probably towards the end of the season, I don't know if it'll be the golf club, but they're going to give Joel his ultimate fate, which it was never an issue with me of him dying. It was just the issue of how they went about it, and I felt like when you do that in the first 2 hours of a game, kill off a beloved character, and then the rest of the game is trying to have you empathize with this character that just killed your favorite character or beloved character, it just didn't work in my opinion. but they're going to be doing it differently, and I'm sure that they want to avoid having another massive downfall. At least HBO is probably saying, hey, let's not get rid of Pedro Pascal so soon, and that's probably the smart decision. Anyway, a lot of gaming news is happening. We're getting closer to all of these summer events. Obviously, E3 has been canceled, but it seems like Sony could be having an event in May. Microsoft has already announced their own in June, and there's going to be a bunch of other publishers holding their own events, hopefully some big surprises. So a lot of stuff that I will end up covering on the channel, maybe some streams. Do make sure you are subscribed, and let me know your thoughts on everything that we discussed today down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.